Daytona Beach, Florida. It is indeed a great honor to be before you today speaking on the importance of the Higher Education Reauthorization Act. Thurgood Marshall once stated, "Better yet, I only qualify for $800 a Pell Grant. I am the first generation college student, and I am the type of student that the Higher Education Act should be helping." At a time when the nation has expressed more now than ever a commitment to no child left behind, our schools are failing to educate a wide range of students, none more than the African males. African males continue to underachieve at alarming rates. They are suspended and expelled in numbers disproportionate to their white counterparts. They say African males are hard to reach. Well, I'll say we can be reached. I can be reached. Under the Higher Education Act, we need programs that are valuable and are a guaranteed success. In the state of Florida, we have a program that can be modeled of what type of programs the Higher Education Act should be providing. The Black Male Exploration Program. In this program, the black male students are taught to respect themselves, one another, they are tutored, and they are rewarded for their hard work. As a result, more than half the students attend college, and not only this, they sign up to be mentors for the program. We need to look at the Higher Education Act and see how we can revitalize it so that its intended purposes can be efficient and effective, helping students and their parents afford college. If you were to stop by Bethune-Cookman College on registration day and talk to students, you will hear them say over and over again, "I cannot afford college," or "my financial aid has been cut." Of the 2,895 students that attend Bethune-Cookman College, 67% of them depend on Pell Grant. That is 1,936 students, more than half our enrollment. Their standard of living and college tuition is going up every year. Why then are we trying to lessen the amount of education funding we can receive? Does this calculation make sense? No, it does not. Students should be encouraged to apply to college whether they can afford it or not. The Higher Education Act is there to help them. America is supposed to be the land of opportunity. But if you cut or eliminate these funds, who then receives these opportunities? The higher education has helped and assisted many colleges and universities. Because of this act, Bethune-Cookman College has a new building called the Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Performing Arts Center. This center has expanded our curriculum by creating a new major called Theater Arts. Thus, it has increased enrollment and provided more revenue for our college because of the type of programs that we are now able to offer to our college and community. In the education system, our faculty, students, and those committed to excellence are our greatest strengths, making America the world leader in higher education, according to President Bush. Unfortunately, America no longer leads the world in college participation. According to a 2003 Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development report, the United States fell from 1 to 13 among developed nations in colleges participating in them, leading to a bachelor's degree in the last decade. It is for this reason that we must make better use of the Higher Education Act. Plus, in today's workforce, most new jobs require post-secondary education. To meet these employment needs, it will require training a more diverse and sophisticated workforce. Cutting or eliminating parts of the Higher Education Act would put us even further behind our global economic competitors, damage our nation's economics, and undermine the American value of opportunity for all through education. Now the question at hand is, where do we go from here? As Nafio puts it best, we need members of Congress and the Department of Education to work with organizations like Nafio to ensure an accountability system that is equitable and efficient, a system that factors in developing scholarships, expanding diversity and access, increased learning, retention, and graduation, and facilitating postgraduate public and private services in areas of high needs. Invest in the human soul. Who knows? It might be a diamond in the rough. Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, I again thank you for your time and I trust that once again we can make progress on education policy when you choose bipartisan cooperation over division. Thank you.
Should we move? Are we in the way?
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished members of the panel. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to speak today. I became aware of this opportunity to speak yesterday evening, and I jumped at it because I thought I had some valuable experiences to share with you all regarding my academic career and my inception into higher education as an African American woman. Being that my alma mater is UC Berkeley, and I'm currently a Master's of Social Work candidate at the University of Michigan, I've definitely had to triumph over some barriers and some challenges, and I didn't do it alone. I definitely had some supports within my family, within my community, and there were some stakeholders who believed in me, who helped pave the way, and they made sure that I was able to get access to higher education through a myriad of programs. And I'm from California, and there were some programs that were specific to my state as a young person that were funded that mirrored the TRIO programs and Gear Up. I'm going to speak specifically to two. The first program being the Early Academic Outreach Program, and this program was university funded, most likely received funds from the Higher Education Act. And it offered intensive academic enrichment opportunities. It provided timely college preparation information, and I was advised and supported by current students, families, schools, and communities. This program targeted students of color from schools who had disadvantaged backgrounds. I'm definitely from a working class family. My parents are immigrants, and I am the first generation college graduate of my family. So this program was specifically created to outreach to myself. Unfortunately, there has been a 50% budget cut in 2003-2004, and it's currently struggling to maintain the gains it made in African American communities. So the early academic outreach program has definitely suffered some setbacks. And if in fact TRIO programs and Gear Up experience the same type of cutbacks, the responsibility to encourage young people like myself to go on to higher education is definitely intensified, and it falls on the shoulders of you. Another program that I definitely received some support from was the Mathematics, Engineering, and Science Achievement Program. It was called MESA, and it also went into middle schools and outreach to young people to support them to get into higher education. And finally, I was definitely impacted by a student-run organization called the Black Recruitment and Retention Center at UC Berkeley. This organization was run by students, and it was the first time I'd actually seen some black people come into my high school and tell me that I had the opportunity to attend such a prestigious institution such as Berkeley. It didn't seem like an option to me. I was definitely on the junior college track. I could see myself being there. Going on to UC Berkeley seemed completely out of this world and not something that was meant for me. This group of young students came and they recruited to 30 different high schools in Southern California, and were definitely a group of stakeholders that knew the importance of representing the university and representing an opportunity that may not have seemed feasible prior to their presence. And given my encounter with them, they helped me make the decision to go on to higher education and to choose that institution in particular. And once I became a freshman at the University of California at Berkeley, I knew it was my obligation, my personal obligation, to give back and to educate up-and-coming youth about the application process to go on to UC Berkeley. The University of California at Berkeley relies extremely heavily on such organizations, student organizations, to do this outreach. And it frightens me to think that programs such as TRIO and Gear Up are on the table to be slaughtered, because Once again, this responsibility lies on the backs of students who have other challenges. They're trying to be students first and foremost, and they may have financial challenges, and they also have to take on the burden of going back and making sure that others have access to the university and academia. It was definitely a labor of love, but it should not be the students' responsibilities. It should be the university's responsibility to make sure that they maintain diversity within the academic setting. This opportunity led to several different leadership positions within the university. It was a gateway to other recruitment and retention efforts at the university. African American Student Development Office, which received funds from the Higher Education Act. And definitely, it helped me as a young person find a niche, find a place where I was no longer isolated. It helped me find a group of individuals who wanted to give back to the community and also wanted to create a place where Black students can be retained in higher education. A lot of these programs help us get there as far as our inception into higher education, but if they're not maintained, if they don't have a support group, they struggle. And this group definitely provided that opportunity for me. Especially at Berkeley, when I arrived in 1997, the African American admits were number 260 at the time. And in 2005, that number has diminished to 106 students out of 3,600. Okay? So the Black Recruitment and Retention Center definitely has a strong role. The post-Proposition 209, its role has definitely been intensified because there are no other real groups that they can congregate and come together and discuss a lot of important issues. Next, I wanted to speak to the issue of financial aid. I'm sure my experience will resonate with a lot of you in the audience. I was definitely a beneficiary of scholarships and grants and loans. One of the scholarships I received was from an individual donor, a private donor to the university, and it paid for about 75% of my education. There was 25% of my education that still needed to be paid for, and it was supplemented through loans. It frightens me once again to hear that the possibility to have loans taken away from students of color, and I don't know how else I would have been able to pay for this education had it not been for the opportunity to have loans, can be taken away if the reauthorization doesn't go in our favor. So I want you to know that as a student of color, accruing debt is a deterrent for students of color to go into higher education. A lot of young people I've counseled and mentored have told me, you know, I just can't afford it. There's no way I can get into there and survive and pay off that debt. And it shouldn't be a deterrent to higher education. Everybody has to take on some type of debt on some level. And it shouldn't be a deciding factor as far as what type of career you're going to take on and what life choices you'll be able to make. So to have the opportunity to have loans is something we should never take for granted. And your excuse me, I'm a little nervous. Your family income should not dictate your career choices. If I was a young person today deciding on if I was going to go into higher education rather than taking on some type of 9-to-5 blue-collar position, and I was contending with that, and I had to really deal with whether or not I wanted to take on that type of debt or go into the workforce. I would definitely be discouraged if I knew that the loans that and other financial supports that are currently available were not going to be available, and I might have made a different decision. So I strongly urge you to, those of you who can, be advocates for us, who are in positions to make sure that those of us who are contending with that financial issue of going on to higher education versus entering a workforce where you'll have limited means of upward mobility, that you'll stand in our corner and you'll make sure that these options and these for upper mobility will be available to us. I don't want people to be discouraged from going into professions that contribute to the fabric of our society. I am a social worker. I'm taking on a lot of debt right now going on to graduate school. And I accept that because I know that my role in this world is going to enhance your children and others people and future generations to come. I think that with higher education, we don't want people to feel relegated to taking on careers that could only be financially profitable, such as being a lawyer or a doctor. There are other positions and careers that should be considered and not be undermined, because they also hold importance for all of us, such as being police officers, teachers, social workers, and first responding professions. And in closing, I'd like to say that I returned to higher education to impact this world on a macro level. And I did so because of my faith in God, because of inspirational people and events in my life who definitely made a mark, who have inspired me to move forward, and because of deliberate and purposeful programs and funding that have made this opportunity feasible. I don't want any other young person beyond myself to not have the same opportunities that I had. It should be a common experience. My experience should be common. It should not be something that is an anomaly. I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to me today. And I wish you good luck in your future endeavors. And I strongly urge you to mentor these young people that are behind you, who are looking for role models like yourselves, who have paved the way. Thank you.
Testing. Can everyone hear me? Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I know some people have fallen asleep. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right, greetings to members of the Senate, to members of distinguished organizations, the students, and to honored guests. I am Soteria Maureen Gregory, a proud graduate of Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University in Tallahassee, Florida, with a Bachelor of Science degree in Ornamental Horticulture. Don't know what that is, you're going to ask me what that is afterwards. I have come before you all today to enlighten you on my experience with the benefits of financial aid and the hardships that may come about when financial aid is missing and or absent or just not present at all. Now, before I get my point across, allow me to paint all of you a picture. And if you can relate to this, then feel free. Now, a dedicated, hardworking student has aspirations to go into college to pursue a degree in one of the agricultural sciences. She, like so many of her peers, then researches top universities, Ivy Leagues, Division 1s, Division 10s, all the divisions, and HBCUs. Now, unfortunately, after months of deliberation with her family, which consists of a father and a younger sibling, she has to curtail her list. Not because her dad wants her to stay home, because by all means he wants her to explore her full potential. It's because the sheer cost of tuition, fees, books, medical, housing, they rise insurmountably each year. And you can imagine how she feels knowing that, dang, I might have to go to a community college, or I might be stuck in state. Because everyone knows out-of-state tuition is ridiculous. Now, seeing that she has to cut her list short, she feels that her opportunities are dwindling. That is until she finds out about financial aid. Now, we all are familiar with government issue financial aid like Pell Grants, Outstanding Scholar Grants, Student Assistance Grants, etc. All that her family has to do is qualify within a certain income bracket, and she will be on her way to school on a full ride. Unfortunately, her father makes just above the maximum allowable income for minority students to qualify for a Pell Grant. Now, knowing that her dad can't go behind that and cut a check for tuition, or her books or her fees, she does what many of us would do in that situation, takes on a couple of jobs to help curtail the cost of her education. Luckily, by the time she graduates high school, she receives a full academic scholarship to a university to pursue her degree. Now, 4 years later, she graduates magna cum laude and is interested in stepping into postgraduate education. However, the scholarship that she received for her undergraduate education cannot be applied to her graduate education because they're viewed differently. So she continues to, she proceeds to scour the internet for the next few months, ask the advice of graduate counselors, peers, mentors, family, only to find out that many of them have to take out loans. Many of them are currently in debt and expect to be in debt for quite some time because they cannot afford to pay the debt with the small job they took on the side to supplement their already expensive education. Now, stuck in a world of indecision, she has one of two choices. A, suffer the financial burden of taking out multiple loans because many of the financial assistantships that are available apply either A, only to undergraduate students, or B, have ridiculous requirements that don't apply to her. Okay, for example, she had a 3.39 GPA. To get that fellowship or assistantship, she had to be in the upper echelon of her class, 3.6, 3.8, because the competition is so high, because just like her, no one else has any money either. So she decides to take choice number 2, which is to take off some time, get some work experience, and most importantly, save that money so that she can curtail her costs. And in her work experience, hopefully she can make some connections to get some kind of employment, permanent job, so that she can maybe get into a stay-in-school program where they can help pay for her education. Now, flash forward to today. She's sitting before you, explaining to you her experience. Yes, I'm speaking of myself. Now that I've given you some background information about where I've come from, allow me to leave you with some pertinent information. Being a product of an historically black university, Florida A&M, that has been the beneficiary of government funds that have provided us with a new engineering school, a new pharmacy building, a new school of journalism, it still saddens me to know that funds are still lacking for students wanting to pursue science, engineering, technological, and mathematical degrees in their postgraduate educational career. In particular, I know that the College of Engineering, Sciences, Technology, and Agriculture, CESTA as it's called at Florida A&M, would suffer greatly even with a small educational budget cut because the money pot is already dwindling for those students. And I myself, being a student of an agricultural science, can attest to the idea that had the funds been available just a year ago, I would already be working towards my second year of graduate school. Now, knowing both the pleasure of receiving those undergraduate funds and the pain of having to do without it, I just find it incumbent upon me to be here before you today to really encourage you and encourage the powers that be not to cut any educational funding. Not at all. Matter of fact, there's more of a need and more of a demand for it than there is a supply. Now, before I conclude, I want to leave all of you with this small statement. A student is only as strong as his or her support. Again, I will say this. A student is only as strong as his or her support. In other words, the burden of unavailable funds can be detrimental to a student's education. It can crush the hopes and dreams of many of us who see those jobs advertised on television, who see our peers who are able to afford school to come out with these degrees. And there's so much pressure nowadays to be, if I can use this colloquialism, just the top dog. In other words, be the one who has gone on to make something of yourself, make that six-figure job. Sometimes it seems far off when you can't even afford to go to school. Excuse me. Now, though I am aware that there are various educational programs out there, those that remain, that have not been put on the cutting board, most of them, as I have stated before, are specifically for undergraduates, or they are for other students who are essentially not of your background. And many students nowadays, because of this, many students are cut short of their dreams of pursuing masters and doctorals. And even with these financial difficulties, I still aspire to pursue my master's and doctoral degrees in Spanish and in environmental science. But the last thing I want to have on my mind is me not being able to do it because the money isn't there. Simply put, if educational funding is cut, then the number of productive, goal-oriented, well-rounded students who can even be more productive will be cut, as will the hopes and dreams of those that come behind us. I thank all of you for allowing me this opportunity to express myself and to share my experience with you. I wish all of you the best in your endeavors, and it behooves me to let all of you ladies and gentlemen know that please remember to do what's right to ensure the educational soundness of you, of your future children, and of others. I thank all of you for your time, and God bless.
To think is to be alive, to ask the question is to grow. For if I never ask the question, the answer I will never know. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right. To members of NAFIO, the SBLSC members, and other members and distinguished people in the audience, and to all who regard education as the cornerstone of existence. I am Lakeisha Nicole Myers, and I bring you greetings from the crown jewel of the great state of Mississippi, Alcorn State University. I thank each and every one of you for this opportunity, and I thank you for being present here today. Your presence alone shows me that you care very deeply for institutions of higher learning, and that education is a mainstay on your agenda. Being the child of two public school educators, the importance of education has been embedded in me since birth. I was privileged to attend great public schools where my teachers forced me to strive for excellence. Excellence never had a color or a socioeconomic status. However, for those of us who are traditionally restricted by these measures, TRIO came to the rescue. During the summer of 2004, I attended the Ronald E. McNair Post-Baccalaureate Achievement Program on the campus of Kent State University. We have some people out there that are from McNair. There I had the opportunity to conduct research in the social sciences to increase voter registration and civic participation. My research plan was then implemented in a rural community surrounding my campus, Fayette, Mississippi. And we helped increase their civic participation on November 2nd by 48%. TRIO helped students, who in turn helped their communities. Ronald McNair program empowered me, and I empowered others. The effect of my TRIO experience increased voter registration and civic participation, which helps those that are in the Senate and in the House of Representatives today, I add. The Ronald McNair Scholars Program prepares students in the sciences, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And as you know, these areas are critical to the American job market today. My suggestion is to increase the funding of programs like McNair, not cut them. These programs stress scholastic aptitude in critical need areas. I also suggest using financial aid as an incentive to encourage students to pursue careers in these areas. We call them the STEM areas: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Now I have to tell you a story. Yes, a story. In 1968, my father left Picayune, Mississippi. It's a real place. He packed a Foot Locker and with $27 in his pocket, he boarded a bus to Alcorn State University. When he registered for classes, he was told that the $27 he came to college with in his pocket would not pay for his education. He was a bit upset. He didn't know what to do. So he went to the financial aid office and said, I really want to go to school. And the financial aid director told him, there's a thing called a loan, and there's something called work study. And he took on a work study job, and he took out that loan, and 33 years and 3 degrees later, my father was reintroduced to the federal loan program when I enrolled at Alcorn State University. Because, just as Tier said, we didn't qualify for federal Pell Grants or FSEOG, and additional money was also needed to fund my education. If you cut federal loan programs, you will inhibit individuals like me from getting a college degree. Parents who supposedly make too much but don't make enough. If the federal loan program is dissolved, you will limit the progress of America because students won't have the opportunity to study medicine, to study math, to study engineering, and to study law. Barbara Jordan once said that she felt she was a part of we the people that is stated in the Constitution. If you take away the federal loan program, we won't be in the people. The lack of funds will inherently increase the unemployment rate, the gap between the haves and the have-nots, and graduation rates will plummet. That's why we need programs like the Perkins Loan Program, Stafford Loan Programs, things like this. You also need an increase in federal Pell Grants as well because people really don't have the money to go to school. Tuition is constantly rising. Tuition has risen 3 times since I've been in school. I'm a junior. So every year I end up paying more money, which means the loan that I take out every year increases, which is more money that I have to pay back when I get that degree. So this is a very serious matter. The third thing I'd like to bring up is about Title IIIB funding. Alcorn State University was noted in the Washington Post as number one in graduation rates among historically black colleges and universities. This can be partially attributed to Title IIIB funding that we received. An example, for instance, would be the Banner accounting system that we had. Before, when I first came to Alcorn State University in August of 2002, I had to stand in a line that seemed to be 3 miles long to register for a class that may have been closed because I stood in line all that time and the class closed so quickly. The retention rate was low from students that came into my class with me to the second semester, and we did everything by paper. Well, last summer we started, after receiving Title IIIB funds, online registration. The lines have gotten shorter. The retention rate has gone up. We now have network-based accounting and registration on campus, and that in turn shows that we have happier students. Title IIIB helps level the playing field between HBCUs and larger universities. We know we have to be able to compete, as Atir said. She has a degree in ornamental horticulture. I have no idea what that is, but with her degree in ornamental horticulture, she should be able to go into any place and get a job. The same as someone who went to Howard, the same as someone who went to Harvard, the same as someone who went to Yale, and the same as someone who went to the University of Wisconsin. So these types of programs we need at historically black colleges and universities because this helps us survive. It helps us to become competitive. The second program that helped through Title IIIB funding was the Honors College at Alcorn State University, of which I'm a part. The Honors College was originally funded under Title IIIB. This offers advanced curriculum to ensure academic preparedness for graduate and professional schools. Students that are in the Honors College have gone on to have research opportunities in the sciences. With students that are in my classes today, I can tell you they've gone to New York and gone to other places and have done research on cancer, done outstanding research on Parkinson's disease, outstanding research on autism. These types of things, this is what this money does. It really helps. Students in the agricultural sciences at Alcorn State University have gone to Latin America last summer. They went to Nicaragua, and they studied agribusiness management. Students have also held jobs here in Washington, D.C. with USDA. So Title IIIB made all these things possible. And I just want to say one thing that Barbara Jordan said one time. I read something she said. It said, we must not call for black power or green power or yellow power. We must call for brain power. That's what this is. That's what this forum is right now. It's brain power, coming together to see what needs to be cut and what needs to be left. My thing is, don't cut educational programs. Somebody had to teach a baseball player how to throw a baseball. Someone had to teach Whitney Houston how to sing. Someone had to teach Satira what ornamental horticulture was. Someone had to teach me that, you know, the President of the United States, you know, these types of things. Common things that we see every day. Now, I know you may say I'm standing on my soapbox because my parents are teachers, but this is serious. Education is serious, okay? Coming from a family where education was with me every day, it was imperative that I learn these basic skills. I don't understand what, this should be a no-brainer. This should be totally a no-brainer. We can pay for wars, we can pay for everything else, but the first thing that always gets cut is education. Somebody has to be a Colin Powell and tell you where to put everyone when they go to war. Someone has to be Condoleezza and say, this is why we have to do this and this and this for national security. Someone has to be a Benny Thompson and say, this is why we need these types of programs in government. These people all had to go to school, at least from K through 12, most of them have advanced degrees. Somebody, anybody, hear me. Pell Grants need to be increased. Financial aid needs to be available. These loans need to stop being so outrageous with these APRs, because I don't want to be in all this debt. I don't want to, you know, McNair, I'm going to go jump back to McNair, but programs like McNair, the only reason I was admitted to the McNair program was due to my skin color. And that was because I got in on a diversity grant. You can get into McNair 3 ways. You could either be a first-generation college student. Well, my parents graduated from Alcorn. That didn't help me. You could have a stringent financial need. I had the stringent financial need, but it just wasn't that little notch that was good enough. So, I mean, you know, these are problems that we deal with every day. So, I'm going to get off my soapbox now. I hope that you all, I just thank you all so much for allowing me this opportunity to tell you what these programs mean to people that are in school. We need them. You need them. Your children will need them. My children will need them. So I'm asking, I'm calling, I'm begging, I am pleading to members of the Senate, members of the House. If I have to go to the Supreme Court and tell them that I need some more money on my Pell Grant, I'm going to tell them, okay? So I'm telling you, everyone that will see this and is listening to me, we need more funds in education, not less. Take away the cutting board, take away the knife, cut something else. If you need to, cut some of these paychecks that these government officials get, because I'm telling you, whatever you have to do, education is very important. Thank you very much. Are open to take questions. I've asked and she said we will. Is that what you Yes, ma'am.
I can just say
Press your button.
thank
There
you.
you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I tell you, all we need to do is pick up these 4 young students and put them before the official hearing of the committee that deals with the higher ed reauthorization. We just need to pick them up, transplant them, and put them right before them. It's not enough to even let the staffs hear what you have to say. As I listened to each one of the things I didn't mention earlier and I wanted to, we are in the midst of reauthorizing the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families Act. That's the program that's now called Temporary Assistance, used to be welfare. We reformed it in '96 and we hurt a lot of people. We've learned that we've got a lot of people off of welfare, but it's the working poor. Senate 11, the member for whom I work, has introduced a bill to provide for students who are on temporary assistance for needy families to get at least a 2-year community college degree. In 1996, in the Gingrich Revolution, they reduced the leverage of social workers and your caseworkers for allowing welfare recipients to complete as much education as they could post-secondary, even to a college degree, and they were A students who got college degrees, believe it or not, who were on assistance. In 1996, they knocked the program down. It was officially 24 months, they knocked it down to 1 year. We've been trying to get them to move it out. The committee, Finance Committee just reported out the bill, and they would not accept our amendment. So we're going to fight it on the floor. But what I heard each of you say, in essence, what I heard you say, I'd like to ask which one of the senators on either of the committees has stopped his or her son or daughter from going to college? I mean, they've achieved not only their undergraduate degrees, but graduate degrees, or doctors, or lawyers, or further, and there is no question about that. What we are faced with as staff, we live every day, and let me tell you, I have been here with this senator since 1979. He hired me 1 month before he was sworn in, so I was working without pay. When I started, I was skinny and he had hair. That's how long it's been, 1979. And I stay. I'm one of the very few staffers who will remain on the Hill this long. I'm second oldest of 11 siblings. I stay because, I mean, it wasn't so bad with us, but when my father was laid off, I can tell you about hunger like yesterday. I know hunger pangs, you know, and I see a young man here who can tell you he came to my house with 30 people for dinner for Easter, and you'll get a smorgasbord, but you cannot throw away a drop of food. The point I'm trying to make, as we look at education, and also the president's budget changes the eligibility rules for food stamps, which means you could be working and getting just $75 of food stamps, which we can stretch, and that could be eliminated. So the point is, I'd love to see each one of you before that committee, and I'd like someone to say to those members, how far did your son or daughter go in college? You know, I mean, why should people not of means expect any less for their families than these members? This is what we face every day. It is so difficult for me. You know, I talked about the chaplain and going to the chaplain. I had to listen to a senator who's now retired last year on the floor upset about an unemployment extension bill because he said those who had found a job would still get a month of unemployment, even though they had been unemployed for many months. He did not want them to get 4 more weeks of unemployment benefits. And I'm saying, I look at this and I just don't get it. I just don't get it. We are watching the clock turn back. I will not get into anything else. I'm telling you about the temporary assistance program, about education, but I've got a list you wouldn't believe. And I'm saying you need to wake up and talk to your families, go back to your schools, and know, one of the things you're going to hear from us tomorrow is you need to know what these members are doing. You need to know who they are, why you're not here. You know, the intern, committee will talk about this, why you're not. We're less than 4% in this institution. I can walk the hallways all night and don't see us, and those of us who are here mostly because we have a job there. And what I'm saying is, you need to look at the legislation that they are edging out. You need to look at what they're doing. We are going back. And no one's saying or doing anything about it. This president supposes a mandate. I'm not being partisan. I'm sure there's a bipartisan crew here. But we don't have, as staff here, we don't have the help that we need. People, people just don't know what's going on. We're looking at megabucks and bucks in the supplemental appropriations for Afghanistan and other places in the billions. Yet we offered amendments on the floor a few months ago to increase education by 20 million, by 5 million, not to eliminate some programs, and we were voted down. You know, there are a few more Republicans than Democrats. We made some, we did not make some. So I say, I'm much older than most of you. I say you go back to your college campuses. There is power in students. You need to be in touch with us, be in touch with your representatives and your senators, and find out what we are doing here. And I guarantee you, if you really knew what we were doing here every single day, you would find it difficult to rest. Everything that Dr. King and others fought for, we are going back. We're passing these glorious resolution, honoring this person and this black person in the Congressional Gold Medal Bill. But on substance, there is some funding that's going to go to HBCUs. Okay? I mean, certain people figure we've got to be good, let's do that. There is more than, HBCUs are at stake. Everything is at stake. It is more than that. And they're at the front door saying, look, we're going to give you some funding. You need to look at what they're doing at the back door. And we're losing African American staff because they're fighting, and they're tired of fighting because we keep losing the edge. So I say the power is within you. If there is anything that I can do from my end, I will ensure that some of you come back here when it's time for you. No senator would sit here this long, not even an official hearing do senators sit throughout. I mean, you have so much to do, you just don't do it. But some of you need to be at these committees, and you need to learn more. You need to know what's going on. You're going to hear shortly from a young man who worked for a member, who was an intern here. Rand worked for Senator Caucus, who's not a bad member. But he had an opportunity that many interns don't have. He was able to argue with that senator and tell him what he disagreed with. He's a Democrat, that senator's a Republican. Again, we're a partisan group here. I am saying to you, I don't care who looks good on the tube and whose popularity, what you see, we are in trouble. I have been here since '79. I was here before '79 on the House side, and I'm telling you, President Richard Nixon was a piece of cake. He was okay to me compared to what I see here. Okay? You can deal with Watergate, but you look at his family assistance plan, you look at what he did for minorities and small business, you look at a lot of things, you do some homework, and you pull up at the library what these members stood for and what they did. I came through an era when in '96 they were saying ketchup is a vegetable for my school lunch. I didn't learn until after school lunch. And this was during a time when they really cooked food in the kitchen. Women were cooking red beans, I'm from New Orleans, red beans and rice and, pasta. This was during a time when you had real meals and not rubber hot dogs. I did not exist, being second oldest of 11 in New Orleans, until after lunch. I did not learn until after lunch. And I'm saying we've been able to reduce poverty. We don't have starving kids, hungry kids, as was the case when we initiated this program. And food stamps I don't think existed the era I'm talking about. But I'm telling you, we can't cover every issue with you today. But you've got to go back. You've got to do some homework. You've got to look at every single, when you're not willing to increase funding for the after-school program from 3 to 6, sex, pregnancy, drugs, crime, and they say it's not working, you don't really need it. Head Start to say it's not necessary when you got young families who are not clear on how to raise kids, but you're trying to start at a very early age. I'm saying look at what's in that budget. Look at what they're trying to cut. Look at everything Dr. King fought for. And I'm telling you, we're going back. I hope everyone shows up tomorrow. We're going to have a dynamite schedule. You're going to hear a lot from these interns today, but you're going to hear from some people tomorrow that really know what's going on. They're going to talk to you about Supreme Court nominations and what all of this means. What we're not paying attention to as a people. You have to do something. You have to be revolutionary. I mean, there is no gain if there is no pain. Okay? And those of us who fought during my time were risking life and limb. But we did it and it made a difference. And I'm saying you need to see, not for anyone to give you anything. We're all tax-paying citizens. We can send mega billions to other countries to have better schools, better health, better wear, in places where we ought not even be. And we can't increase education by a few $100 million. The Perkins loan program is eliminated in the president's budget. I mean, it's unconscionable. You're going to cut out TRIO? First, you don't care about our people, and it's not just blacks. It's poor students across the country. So I'm going to get off of my soapbox. But I noticed that everyone these students, had your attention. And so I had to take advantage of that. But help me, help those of us who are here. I work for Senator Carl Levin. He's a great guy. He wants to do the right thing. But for them not to allow recipients to get 24 months of post-secondary education when the recent congressional research study said they're the working poor. So you're telling me I get off of welfare and I'll never be anything but poor? I'll never increase the standard of living for my family or my kids? So I'm saying, look at everything. There is so much. There is so much with the banking bill, with predatory lending. Patience Singleton, who was just here, who's the president of our group, is a Harvard lawyer who, fine, she fights on this predatory lending. She's a counsel on the Senate Banking Committee. We have some tremendous people here. All of us could be making triple digits on the outside expense account. But we believe in what we're doing. And there are many young staffers who tried to stay. I stayed, but it's difficult. So we need to make a difference. So when you go back, Just go up. You can see everything that's going on here. Just dig deeper. Call your members. Get to know your senators, your congresspeople. We're not interns because our non-black colleagues, the interns say they know the senator, their parents know the senator, their grandparents, everybody. You know, go and volunteer in the summer to work in their offices. If it's one day, there's so much to do, but we need you. We need your black faces in these offices because we're not here. Even with members who are unwavering proponents of civil rights, don't have us there. It's a kind of neglect where they're not really thinking. It's not discrimination, it's not racism per se, but no one's shaking them up. You are in the position of shaking them up. Students stopped the Vietnam War. Students did the war on poverty. Students, you have the power, and there's so much you need to do, and we're asking for your help. So I think you said you could get questions, but I hope you will listen to the next interns panel, and that you will be here tomorrow because you will hear what you never heard before.
Yes, I'm trying to decide if this is the right forum for this or not, but anyway, I think one of the problems is that we, first of all, don't realize our power, which is what you are tuning into and addressing right now, the power that we have to tell other people, to educate other people. But beyond just the informal chats and sharing this and whatnot, I think that we need to know about a process for doing this in an organized kind of way so that we have the impact that we want to have, okay? And I think that's important because many of us don't realize that there's actually a process that we can hook into or buy into that will yield these results that you're talking about. You know, we talked about it, we talk among ourselves, we may speak about it in our families, in our holiday gatherings, in our classrooms, whatever. But moving it from that level of discussion to an actual moving this agenda forward, just the way we see this administration moving its agenda forward while it proceeds to mislabel and misname things in a way that makes you think that it's for our common good and welfare, when in fact, as you pointed out, it's going backwards. You know, what could be wrong with a bill entitled Leave No Child Behind? You know, what could possibly be wrong with that principle or that notion? There's nothing wrong with it. However, we need to know how to learn what it's really doing and share that with our churches, with our social institutions, have an organized kind of movement. That's what I think we're missing at this point. We're thinking that it's just going to happen. I mean, you know, if anybody's ever seen the Montgomery boycott, any information on the Montgomery bus boycott, these people organized a boycott that ended segregation on the public bus system. They didn't have faxes, they didn't have cell phones, they didn't have, some of them didn't have telephones, and most of them didn't have cards. But overnight, they organized a movement that paralyzed a social institution in the South that had existed for many, many years. And it was a social institution that was oppressing African Americans. So I think that's the connection. We need to somehow identify a process with all our cell phones and with all our emails and with all of these things that we have, that all of this technology that we have now, we still aren't connecting with one another. We still don't have any kind of organized momentum to move us from the realization that yes, we are being decimated, but how do we now react to that and move it forward?
I'm going to say this quickly before we go to the next panel. By the way, I talked about the surface, the veneer. The name of that welfare reform bill that must be reauthorized, it's been renamed the Pride Bill. The Pride.
What?
The Pride, the Pride Bill.
Pride.
But let me just say this. I can tell you that any given time in my office, when letters are being faxed now because of anthrax, all of your letters, if you send them in the mail, it'll be weeks before we get them, and they usually crumble in your hands because they're irradiated. But I can't say that we write letters. I don't mean sign a form letter or a postcard. We don't write letters to show that we know the issues. We aren't making the phone calls to show that we know the issues. When it gets time, they're coming close to this, to the hearings on the higher ed reauthorization. Then they will start to the markup. They should hear from every black student in this country, whether or not you are a person of need, because each one of us is tied to the other. There should be letters, fax, original letters where you've written. There should be phone calls. This is who I am. Just a minute, front desk person. Don't tell me this. I want you to take my name and my number, my address. I want someone to get back to me. We have to be heard. No one. We need to communicate. Now, organizing, that has to be done on a separate level. That's another story. But first of all, we're not hearing from you. Are you saying to your senator, are there any African Americans on your staff? I mean, would you like some resumes from young people at our church who are in college? Or would you like us to contact, organizations, the Urban League, NAASB? Would you like resumes? The next time you have a vacancy, or when you come back to the state, we'd like to introduce you to some young people that may have an interest in working there. People understand you when it's political, and they're for re-election and all of this. And what I'm saying is, they need to know there's an interest. We spend all of our time letting black folk know, hey, we're here, and you ought to be interested. This summer, when they're interns, maybe 1% will be African American. No, we can't afford to come in and intern when there's no stipend. But I'm telling you, it's worth your while if it's just a month to find a way to come here and be present. It makes a difference. So we instituted, the SBLIC instituted an intern program some years ago, and we had over 50 Kellogg, we partnered with Kellogg to pay stipends. And we had about 50 interns over a 4 to 5 year period. Several of them have been working on the Hill. Julian Nomet back there Julian was at University of Michigan. He came in as a Kellogg intern, went back and finished school, came back here and said, I'd like to work on the Hill. Got him, we had a little resume bank. He could have sold himself. We didn't need to sell him. But sometimes we just know things are going on. He started working for Senator Hollins. Before we could blink an eye, he was the senior legislative assistant. Before I turned around, he was going to law school at night. He's graduated from law school. He's now left the Hill for a short while. He'll tell you his story later on when we get the former staffers on. But he commands respect. He's sharp. I don't know if it was the internship that made him feel I want a career on the Hill, but let me tell you, he made a statement here. That's the stepping stone. And I'm saying, even if you can't get a stipend, it's worth contacting you. And you have 4 senators. If you were born in Alabama and you're going to school in California, you got Feinstein and Boxer in California and Alabama. I won't say who you got, but you know who you got. That's who you got. You make a decision where you want to be. So I don't want to talk too much. We got tomorrow. We're going to get on, the panel tomorrow will get on a lot of these issues about there are things happening right now on nominations and possible future Supreme Court where we can make a difference, and we're just not doing it. So tomorrow, please make sure you come. Anybody who's left, make sure they come back. Tomorrow morning is D-Day. We have an unbelievable panel. Now, you see a lot of people on the panel that are staff. Many staffers can't just leave their offices, but you're going to have a core group of people here where you can ask questions, you can partner with, mentor with. If there are more questions here, I'm going to go back to the...
I just wanted to say something to answer the lady's question, that I heard it said once, excuses are monuments of nothing. They build bridges that lead to nowhere. Those who use these tools of incompetence are masters of none. We as a people have to stop using excuses, waiting on her to do for me, waiting on you to do for my baby, waiting on you to do for me. Stop making excuses. Nobody holds you down. Don't blame it on no other man but yourself, okay? You have to stop blaming people for doing other things, you know, to doing things to you. I was just talking to her, I said, there's no law against writing a letter to your senator. A handwritten letter. They read them, trust me, they will get back to you. I will call Benny Thompson's office in a minute, and someone will call me back. Senator Lott, someone will call you back, they will write you a letter saying, yes, we received your information, yes, we're going to do this. Call these people and tell them what to vote on. Know what is actually going on up here. I mean, it's amazing the opportunities that you can have to speak with these people, to speak with their staffers, just anything. I mean, we have to stop making excuses for ourselves and do for ourselves. Nobody did it for us during the bus boycott, we did it ourselves. Okay, so.
Wonderful. If we can call up, if we can replace the staff students there with the interns, Crystal, would you